and forth with Connie on this ones. But, it's very important to see how the things, the traditional diet in Mexico. So imagine you are before the Spaniards, and this is what they do. They do what is called la milpa mexicana, where essentially it's like a cornfield, but not only a cornfield. Because in the milpa in Mexico, we not only grow one ingredient, it's not a monocultivar. We have also squashes growing in the same, chiles, tomatoes, and beans. And also that will enrich the dirt. So you will have a richer, and more nutritious ingredients when they grow with different flavors and things like that. And you can basically eat from your milpa. So you have a full diet right there, because once you mix two very important things in the Mexican diet, which is the corn, processed corn, as I mentioned with you, processed in the nixtamalización way, that chemical reaction that develops niacin and add calcium and other things, and you mix it with beans, then you have a full diet right there. So you don't need any extra things. So that's why the pre-Hispanic people, the pre-Columbian people, they didn't need much more, because they have everything right there. They get to the knowledge that with those two ingredients that they grow in nature, they can create a full diet. Connie, something that you want to share on the meal prep side?
I'm sorry. Oh, and I think you just worded it perfectly. And from a nutritional standpoint, as Iliana mentioned, it's everything they needed nutrition-wise was there to sustain them in terms of protein. And as she mentioned, this was before the Spaniards, before they introduced the meat. So they were actually achieving a very strong, healthy diet with plenty of protein from plants in these very smart combinations.
This is one of the most, I mentioned several times, I knew that was coming in eventually in one of the slides here, the chiles en nogada. This is a very famous dish in Mexico and I guess throughout the world. And it's a seasonal dish from Puebla. And it's, like a chile relleno, exactly, one poblano, like that, in the way, peel it and then stuffed with a mixture of, hundreds of things, I guess. It has meats. It has also a lot of flavorings, onion, tomatoes, tomatillos. It has plantains and apples and pears. And what else it has? Sort of many things. And then the sauce is made out of cheese and cream and peeled walnuts. So seasonal, because it's the time of the year, the end of August in Mexico and in September and the beginning of October, that we have fresh pomegranates available, the same as the walnuts are fresh. So the people peel the walnuts one by hand. They put them to soak in milk, so they get a little bit softer, and then they peel it. So the important thing also, not only the dish is beautiful and pretty and everything else like that, but also it's mostly every family gets together to cook this. So some people, they will happen, like several afternoons doing. And it's what is important in Mexico, that you have the family, the friends all together, in one house, cooking together and sharing stories and do all that, what we call the sobremesa. After a meal, you enjoy with the family and your friends and share stories and know how the day was for everyone, or how is your week has been going. And that creates also a sort of community. Connie, something about it?
Yes. Going back to that beautiful slide, this happens to be one of those recipes that was celebrated in my family for more of a traditional holiday, because it is quite special, and it's wonderful to see this image. And it just, from a culinary nutrition perspective, the dairy that you see, the cheese and the cream that was used to make that beautiful white sauce, that is that rich hand that lends to very lean ingredients that balances the flavor. But from a health perspective, when you combine forms of dairy and even the chopped walnuts that you see with dark greens like the poblano that is in this dish, you're actually providing a dream team combination of nutrients where the body can better absorb some of the health properties that are in the chilies, and whatever the vitamin C that is contained in the poblano actually helps the body absorb the calcium that is within the cheese. So not only is a work of art from a culinary perspective, but when you study the science and how foods come together to really protect you, from the vitamin C of the pomegranates to the chilies to the wonderful calcium and vitamin D, I think this is really a work of art and so delicious.
So when you had one like this, and you know, in the restaurant, when we serve them, people ask us what it comes with. It's like nothing. That's a perfect dish by its own. Not even tortillas. You don't need rice. You don't need anything. You have one dish, one chili, one beautiful plate. That's what you need. Okay, going back a little bit about the corn. So quesadillas. For the quesadillas, I will use like a Gouda or a Mexican cheese like Oaxaca cheese or one of the jacks or one like melting cheese. You want a melting cheese for this one.
Oh,
Cacao.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. It's always tricky on Zoom. Iliana and I are so used to having conversation in our presentations, but that just looks amazing, quesadillas. But, you know, research has just come out, really fascinating research that dairy and particularly fermented cheeses can really have beneficial changes in the microbiome of the gut. What does this mean? It means that you're really improving the population of the gut bacteria. And when you change this environment in the gut from the microflora, you're actually reducing risk factors that are related to inflammation in the body, heart disease, diabetes, possibly even obesity. And that's really exciting new research where dairy, fermented cheese can actually change the environment within your gut. Just had to add that little bit of science there to this beautiful dish.
Great. And cacao, I mentioned the cacao per se was originated in the Amazon basin, but it was just like that. They eat the fruit, it's like a pod that you see in the back. That is the fruit, and it's full of like a white flesh, almost like cotton-like, and then they have the seeds. So the seeds are what we call cacao, actually, but they come like that. So the people in Brazil and that area, they used to spit them out because they didn't know what to do with them. So when it reaches this fruit, the peninsula of Yucatan, they began to ferment the cocoa beans. And then that's how they began to create the chocolate. I mean, as we know now, it's just a drink that it was, frothy with something like this to make the chocolate. And that's how you get, the chocolate drink. But that's the basic. Of course, they didn't have sugars in those days. So it was more like a savory dish, savory beverage than actually a sweet drink as we know now the chocolate is. If you try the cocoa bean like directly like that, it's kind of bitter. So be careful. Sometimes when you eat a cocoa, in a spoon or something, and it's really bitter. So be careful with that. Connie, is your...
Well, speaking of bitter, in nutrition, bitter is healthy. It tends to be. And it plays such an important culinary role to balance the bitter flavors. So when you're looking at, chocolate that is, let's say, greater than 68, 70% of cacao, you are going to get those rich, deep, dark flavors that tend to be bitter. But from a nutritional standpoint, those bitter flavors mean health. Those are properties coming from the antioxidants that in research have been found to improve blood circulation and to act as powerful antioxidants, which tells you that there's a role for how you combine these dark, bitter flavors in savory cooking, such as in maybe some of the moles, or in sweet, wonderful desserts, or just alone. Some of the best coffee I have had has had, wonderful traces and hints of dark chocolate. And it's just wonderful to see how you can combine these big personality flavors that don't always have to be mild and sweet and, buttery flavored chocolate. The dark chocolate is really healthy and wonderful tool in the kitchen.
And here we have a beautiful, scene of a market, lots of fruits, delicious native fruits from the Americas mostly. I will say, like, we have guayabas, we have chirimoyas on the back, we have all the things. So just, how do you see the markets in Mexico?
And I think, oh, sorry.
No. That's it. There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
Just looking at this beautiful image, I can only see how it inspired so many artists with those vibrant colors. And from a nutritional standpoint, if you can remember, the more colorful variety of ingredients that you have, the more protective health benefits. And what's really amazing is how you can combine them and how they come alive, as you see in the next slide, with what we call power pairings, or dream team combinations of foods that you actually can exert more health benefits by how traditionally they naturally combine these foods together. There's no reason to repeat history or to reinvent the wheel. It's really following the inspiration. For example, combining lean meats with a wonderful salsa that is rich in vitamin C, helps to the body to absorb the iron. It's more bioactive, but it just aids that combination. It's a synergistic effect. When we saw the greens and that poblano pepper that had the wonderful walnuts and the cream cheese and the pomegranate sprinkled above, that's a wonderful way to absorb the antioxidants that were in the greens that otherwise, if you ate the poblano all alone, you wouldn't have the benefit of that power pairing. And we talked about the beans and the corn combined with vitamin C as an excellent way to absorb iron and protein, and the dairy with the vitamin C for calcium absorption. So it's interesting when you look at the culinary arts that you have the wisdom of enjoying these flavor combinations, the traditional diets and the traditional recipes and methods of combining these ingredients. But when you take a step back and you look at the science behind the art, it's absolutely amazing how the combinations are really to exert the most benefit in the body. And it's something that we as scientists, probably could have not figured out how to do it in such a delicious way. It's beyond a vitamin pill. And power pairings are a new way of stressing the importance of really looking at the pattern of how we study these traditional diets and not just identify one key ingredient, but really take advantage of understanding the pattern. So as we start to, come to an end of this presentation, at least for my nutrition presentation, I want to leave you with a few messages that delicious Mexican flavors can be used to leverage healthy ingredients. For example, beans and the greens taste so much better with the Oaxacan cheese sprinkled above it, or the combination of herbs such as cilantro and epazote and even mint in some ingredients. And I saw that image of the fruit with a little bit of the dry cheese. So really understanding how to combine and leverage healthy ingredients is key to inspiring healthy eating. And the importance of preserving these traditional diets and ingredients, not only for the family support and for just the sheer enjoyment, but we actually have studies that have confirmed that preserving these cultures and the heritage of cooking together, eating together, and staying close to these traditional diets can really inspire cultural healthy changes, to inspire more cooking at home, to enjoy the meals, but to also to live healthier. So if you want to explore more, I know that between Chef Iliana and I, we've referred to many old traditional recipes, to scientific studies. We put together a list of references and literature to help guide you and to support this presentation.